Good evening. This is the May 13th, 2024 North Andover Special Education Parent Advisory Council meeting. It is now 6:06 p.m. and I call this meeting to order. Do I have any public comment before we start the meeting? Hearing none, we are going to move directly into our 2024-2025 elections for our executive committee. Just to kind of give some background, voting membership is granted to general members who have attended at least one previous meeting of the North Andover SEPAC during the last 12 months. That also includes our events. A voting member must be in attendance to vote. Eligible events may include, but are not limited to, monthly business meetings, workshops, NA SEPAC volunteer opportunities, or other SEPAC-sponsored events. Voting membership is required to vote in the annual officer elections and other business that comes before any NA SEPAC meeting. The Executive Committee of the North Andover Special Education Parent Advisory Council shall determine clarification of membership if it shall be required. The Executive Committee is defined as the elected positions of President, Vice President, Secretary, Treasurer, Public Relations Chair, and members at large. There shall be 2 members at large positions, but 1 or 0 need to be filled. It could be any of them or none of them. In order for a vote to be taken, at least 2 officers must be present, one of which must include the president or vice president. In this case, we have both the president and the vice president in attendance. All of that clarification kind of being read, I would like to start our 2024-2025 elections. The first position that needs to be discussed is the position of president. The president shall preside over all meetings. They shall call meetings, select agenda items, and provide agenda for dissemination to the public. They shall sign on behalf of the SEPAC all documents reasonably necessary for its proper conduct. They will act as a liaison between the administration, school committee, and SEPAC, prepare periodic reports as necessary, and report to the school committee at least annually. They will represent and speak on behalf of the North Andover SEPAC in all pertinent situations. They will attend school committee meetings as needed and recommend the organization and monitor the function of subcommittees. And no executive committee member may transact business as a representative of the committee or a subcommittee except the executive committee members or their designees as outlined in our bylaws. So all of that being said, do I have any nominations for the role of president?
I nominate Sasha Weinreich for president.
I'll second that.
I second. Thank you. I accept the nomination. Are there any other nominations for the role of president? Hearing none, I would ask that I will recuse myself from presiding over this piece of the election. I'd ask that the vice president, Lauren Stedman, take the roll call vote, please. Or actually, vote by hand is appropriate and allowed under the bylaws. So if you can just use your hand button, that would properly document your vote.
Okay, can I have a show of hands, please? All in favor for Sasha Weinreich for president of SEPAC for the 24-25 school year, please.
Thank you. I am honored to continue to serve. Moving on to the role of vice president. The vice president presides at meetings in the absence of the president or at the request of the president. They attend all meetings to the best of their ability, assist in managing projects as determined jointly with the executive committee. They assist in managing communications, initiatives, and advocacy work as determined jointly with the executive committee. And they assist in the SEPAC, preparing the North Andover SEPAC annual report to the school committee or in other presentations as required. Do I have any nominations for the role of vice president?
I nominate Lauren Stedman for the role of vice president. I second.
Lauren, do you accept the nomination?
I accept the nomination.
Do I have any other nominations for the role of vice president? Hearing none, I will take a vote, show of hands, either with raising your hand or physical hand. Thank you, Lauren, for your willingness to continue to serve. Lauren Stedman will serve as Vice President for the 2024-2025 school year. Next is the position of Treasurer. The Treasurer shall preside at meetings in the absence of the President and Vice President or at the request of the President and attend all meetings to the best of their ability. They'll maintain and be responsible for all funds of the North Andover SEPAC. They'll collect and deposit all SEPAC funds in its name according to state laws and regulations, and render a statement of the condition of the finances of the NACPAC at such times as shall be required by the NACPAC, and a full financial report, which will be coming in the future. Do I have any nominations?
I'd like to nominate Zora Warren for treasurer.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Zora, do you accept the nomination?
I do accept it.
Thank you. Do I have any other nominations for the role of treasurer? Hearing none, I will take a vote, either physical raised hands or virtually through Zoom. Zora, thank you for your willingness to serve as treasurer. Okay, next is the role of secretary. The secretary shall attend all meetings to the best of their ability, keep minutes of all general meetings, maintain a current membership list, record and maintain attendance at each meeting, notify executive committee of changes of meeting dates and agenda, coordinate the recording and filing of minutes, and maintain all electric files and access to files. Do I have a nomination for the role of secretary?
I nominate Rachel Anastasia.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Rachel, do you accept this nomination?
I do.
Do I have any other nominations for the role of secretary? Hearing none, I will take a show of hand vote for Rachel Anastasia as the secretary. Rachel, thank you for your willingness to continue to serve.
Pleasure to serve.
And the, excuse me, the next role is the public relations chair. They create and send press releases, making use of all media, coordinate public communications with the district and local newspapers, coordinate flyer and letter brochure creation and distribution, promote meetings and presentations on social media, and manage Google links and camera recordings, promote communication between members of local, state, and national councils and organizations, and monitor and update any websites or social media pages. Do I have a nomination for the position of public relations chair?
I nominate Megan O'Neill.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Meg, do you accept this nomination?
I accept this nomination.
Do I have any other nominations for the role of public relations chair? Hearing none, I will take a show of hands vote for Megan O'Neill as public relations chair. Meg, thank you for your willingness to serve in this capacity for another year.
Thank you.
Okay, so our last role is for members at large. There could be one or two members here. If in this case you would also like to nominate yourself, you may do that. Please, you could have done that anyway, but I just want to make it really clear. If you'd like to continue to nominate yourself in this capacity, you can. Do I have any nominations for the position of member at large? I would like to make a nomination. If I hearing none, I'd like to nominate Sheena Amini for the position of member at large.
I second that.
Sheena, do you accept the nomination?
I do accept. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other nominations for the position of member at large? Hearing none, I will take a show of hands to vote for Sheena Amini as a member at large. Great. Sheena, welcome. We're so happy to have you as a newly elected member. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So what I can do now is we can move on to school liaisons. I know that there are some that are not here today. So I'm open to a discussion with the current executive committee if they'd like to continue with our current liaisons, or if we want to go through and say if anyone would like a nomination, we could certainly do that for those schools where someone's in attendance, or it looks like we have a bit of low attendance from our liaisons, and we could come back to that. I'm open to both suggestions.
I would say come back to it, right?
Yeah, and I am just double checking our bylaws. I think we could do that, and we could reach out to, make sure all of our liaisons are in attendance at our next meeting to do that and confirm. What I don't want is for them to be inadvertently removed from their position without them here to speak with us about that. So we welcome all liaisons. More than one is perfect. So I think we can certainly talk about that at a later date. That would conclude our 2024-2025 elections. Does anyone have any questions or comments before I move on? I would just like to say thank you to the executive committee for continuing to serve, and to Sheena, our newly elected member. We're so excited and have a lot planned for next year. So we really look forward to all of the things that we have to work on. Okay, next on the agenda is an update from the Executive Director of Special Education, Marcy Bacuzzi.
Well, I could go for hours about update, but we'll keep it, everyone's up to date with a lot of things. So I'll keep my scope narrow. First, and I don't know, I don't think, I'm sure people know, but Special Olympics is coming up. I've been in contact with Kara, and I told Lauren the other day when I saw her, she's super grateful for the assistance. She's been a one-woman show for very many years, as was Kathy Keith before her. Special Olympics of Massachusetts, for many years, they were super helpful in terms of the actual event date. But that has sort of, based on, some financial struggles that they've had. Unfortunately, that has waned a little bit. So she is excited to have the support and the outreach and the financial support from, I know, some organizations you're looking at. So that's awesome. It can only make the day better. The other thing I want to mention, and just this is we did, and in terms of the family, we did have a student who a very active member of Special Olympics, and a student in our community, and we'll be sending a letter out, pass away. That was part of our program. So the parents have let the staff know. Her name is Bryn, and she is a wonderful, wonderful young lady who has been part of our school in Special Olympics, active in Special Olympics for a long time. She's almost 22 years old, and some of the providers that have worked with her have worked with her since she was just a baby. So just my prayers to her family, and any outreach that maybe we can do through Special Olympics. Again, that was a big day for her and her family. So just to put that out there. And to also the teachers and providers that have worked with her for a long time, as well as her family. So it was a tough weekend for them. And again, just my heart goes out to her family. They are definitely have been warriors for her. But that we're excited about the upcoming event. I love having it in North Andover. It was, it's very much so a community-based event. Lots of people come out, so that should be a great day. And we just put on our cheerleader sunny day hats as that week comes closer. It's going to be here before we know it. So that is June 7th is the Friday, and the rain date is the following Monday, 8th, 9th, which would be the 9th or the 10th.
Do you
The 10th.
mind if I take out of order? We had that also. I doubled. We also had it on new business. Do you want to speak to any updates on that too, Lauren? Well, like in
Oh,
the same, since we're talking about it, would that be okay?
Yes, and then I'm just gonna have to hop off to go do my group. So sorry to leave everyone.
No, good.
So yes, Kara Higgins, as Marcy mentioned, is huge. She is the Special Olympics in coordination with North Andover School District, and we are looking for parent volunteers. We'll use you for any chunk of time that you may have available from 7:45 a.m. till noon is kind of that chunk that we're looking for. But please, if you do have any availability, I guarantee you will leave with a smile. The families, as many of us are part of that community, are motivational and inspirational as the children are. And it's a wonderful, wonderful time. So my email is on the flyer that we've posted on our social media and that will be circulating. So please contact me if you are available to volunteer sometime the morning of the 7th.
So, Lauren, just one more thing before you
Yeah.
leave. I know she's probably reached out to you. I think an area, and so Michaela, I've reached out to, and they've been good. One of our PTs, Tara White, Michaela Blaney, our APE, and my goodness, I can't remember his name. He's out on paternity leave. Sorry, I'm having a mental block. The gentleman who usually does it, one of our wonderful, Jason Garante, who is out on maternity leave. So he's often heads up some of the adaptive piece of it. But I know one area, I know in your world, in your little people world, is with our youngest students. So I don't know through your outreach to tap into anyone that is really looking to help facilitate. The youngest ones are obviously the most challenging one in terms of like herding into an area. So that's in the past an area that they've sought volunteers.
So the staff at Kyoko is actually looking into a bunch of them, the OTs, LPs coming over for the morning and assisting us. So that would be great if, and I'll reach out, I'll see them again on Wednesday to
Okay.
kind of confirm how many people they'll be able to help participate as well.
Okay, and Tara White. Yeah, she's probably, I went connect with them. She did it last year and she was great. So she's a great one to connect with, so we can facilitate that. Just let me know and I can put them in contact with her too. So it might be
Awesome.
something that you and Kara don't have to do, you know.
That sounds great. Thank you.
I also was just wondering, you think it would be reasonable, Marcy, to send a quick email over to town hall and see if there's any departments that would allow their staff to volunteer? Because it's a half day anyway, or
Yeah.
is that usually not something?
So I think at the end of the day, she gets a lot of volunteers. Like, it's at the end of in years past, at least like when I've been there, it's almost too many people at some point. So I think if she's targeting certain people, like central office is always gone. Like, so I don't know that it's like a volume of volunteers. I think it's just targeted towards specific areas. But it's an awesome event. I think it's worthwhile to send what you send out anyways, but let me triple check with her about volunteers because I don't want to overwhelm her with people either.
Because you're coordinating some of that, Lauren, right?
Yeah, so she had asked me to reach out for some parent volunteers between those hours to see if we can rally up some people to help, like you mentioned, with concessions, with helping with the kids, various setup, and then takedown. Because she does have some volunteers from the high school.
Yep.
From a student perspective to do cleanup, but especially set up in the morning, she had wanted some parent volunteers to get involved with that.
Yeah, it was like literally her and her husband and me setting up tents. So yeah.
7:45, I'll bring coffee.
Yep.
All right. All right. I know Lauren has to go. Lauren runs a group, a monthly group for another, a group of people. She does it for us, and then she also does it for another area of the state. So she's going to go do that. Thank you so much, Lauren. We so appreciate you being here. But I know that's super important. So thank you.
Thanks, everyone. I appreciate your time. See you soon.
Thanks, Lauren.
Sorry, Marcy. I just wanted her to
No, that was good.
before she had to go. So we're still in your update.
So ESY, we are pretty much wrapping those pieces up. We have a couple of new programs that I mentioned that were going on. There's going to be a first grade readiness, which is sort of an extension of Tiptoe to Kindergarten. There'll be a first grade readiness course. ESY program running, as well as a collaboration with community programs on top of the youth summer fun. And all of those programs are helping facilitate our students that are vulnerable, and there may be some social skills, social interactions, and working to find them programming that will give them access to typical peers. And so in the past, sure, we could run programs that are kind of like groups, and we do in some areas, but these are students that we just find might be a little bit vulnerable in that area, and that we may have set up for, you know, a counseling or a social skills group twice a week. But instead of doing it twice a week for 30 minutes, which they do get, we build it around a pro-social program. So the first grade readiness program. So those students in the past, we have been recommending for summer fun, and that didn't seem like for some of them the right environment. It's, you know, it's sports related, it's activity related. And so we sort of divided that group into, you know, certainly we still have kids going in that will be perfect for summer fun, but this is just another opportunity to capture a different need of students. So still the collaboration with Rick Gorman, a fantastic collaboration that offers some of the 1 week courses in different varieties, some of with Rick Galante, some of the things that we are trying to integrate students into. We're looking at integrating them into areas where we feel like they will be successful and be interesting. So programs which some of your kids may have been to before, like Camp Invention and Day Trippers and crafts and nature camp and kids fun camp. So all of those community programs, week-long summer programs supported by special education staff. So in addition to the staff that Rick has, again, pro-social activities that are really capturing social skills, but built around a pro-social program. So it's a really, really good opportunity that we have for students in North Andover. And tutoring's on its way. We're just waiting for the assignment of classrooms. I think I told you guys all elementary, we have like waiting for like what classrooms are going to be open and what building projects are going to be going on. So all elementary tutoring will happen at the Atkinson School, and all middle school and high school tutoring will be happening at the high school. The middle school is totally shut down. Lots of other sections of schools are shut down, but programs already, sub-separate programs that are already in existence are staying where they are. So for instance, the multiple support program, which runs at Sargent, will stay at Sargent. The RISE program at Franklin will stay there. We had to work around areas of air conditioning and, you know, lots of different nuances of trying to put things where they need to be to address student needs. So families can be expecting to hear in the next probably week or two around their assignment. Again, we are doing it a little bit differently. They are in sort of grouped based on need. So we can, there will be a little bit of flexibility, but based on transportation. So it will be, you know, 8:30 to 9:15, and next one starting at 9:30. So we had to do a little bit more coordination around it with a limited space. We have a good amount of tutors coming back, as they always do, but we are just scheduling it a little bit more, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Purposefully. So to address some of those other needs, some building needs and transportation needs. So doing the best we can in terms of parents wanting their children to participate in other camp activities. We always do the best we can around that. And again, we are probably 96% successful around that, but it's, you know, unfortunately, sometimes people have to make tough decisions around that. And we don't have, like, you know, we can't individually schedule for every student doing ASY, but we definitely do the best we can around that.
Marcy, can you just, for everyone potentially watching later on now, could you just explain how a family would know if their child had ESY, especially if they haven't had their meeting yet this year?
So by this point in the year, though most meetings happen, obviously not all meetings have happened. So ESY services are determined based at the team meeting. So they should know. If you are questioning it, you can look on that grid page of your IEP. It'll be right on there. It'll say extended school year services. It'll start. If your student is already enrolled, if your student participates in a sub-separate program, those dates run from July 1st, and then it's 6 weeks after that. Someone will have to help me with the date, August 9th or something like that. And then tutoring starts the following week, which would be July 8th, and that runs 5 weeks. If you don't see it or have any confusion about it, reach out to your child's liaison. They will be able to get you that answer quickly. So all we base our decisions on extended school year service based on regression. So if you don't have that answer, as far as the information that I've asked for teachers, they have collected all regression data by this point in the year. So if you haven't had your meeting yet, and though it's a team decision, they may be able to give you some idea just based on the data that they've collected about what that's going to look like. But for the most part, those decisions have been discussed with families. And again, just if you don't see it or have any question, just reach out to your child's liaison.
Anyone have questions for Marcy about ESY?
And the other thing, and I don't know, Sasha, because I saw it on your agenda too, because the only thing I was going to talk about, and I can leave it for you to talk about in the president's report, is just sort of our next meeting around FY25 planning and the special education review and the, I think Pam or Michelle McHugh maybe started reaching out to people today to secure some dates. So I can leave that for you to discuss if you want. If you're gonna.
No, go ahead.
So we, based on some planning moving forward, and again, planning always happens. We continuously plan and, look at what we need for capacity and resources into next year. But we are beginning the process of sort of further dissecting the special education review and forming a committee that will look at that further and make some additional recommendations. So at school committee, I guess a smaller group that will turn into a larger group and potential maybe other subcommittees. We're going to meet within the next week or so and sort of tease out what that committee is going to be doing and next steps on that. So we'll hopefully be reporting back out on that as well.
So just like Marcy said, and I'll just talk about it now instead of a bit later. So we were lucky enough to be able to, Lauren and I were at the school committee meeting. We were lucky enough to be able to kind of participate in that piece of the conversation. And it was actually recommended by the acting superintendent, Pam Lathrop and Marcy, that we potentially meet separately and just try to flush things out a bit more for the school committee on what we think this should look like. And we were able as SEPAC to work on that collaboratively with Marcy and Pam, which is awesome. So we're really looking forward to that conversation and be able to work on that and then present it prior to the school committee's next meeting, not the one tomorrow that they have before the town meeting, but in 2 weeks or so. So, we'll have something else to talk about at that point. And then hopefully they establish the initial advisory committee. And then that initial advisory committee, based on the recommendation, would, like Marcy said, perhaps be a bit larger or then form subcommittees based on progress, which I think is great. So that's... Oh, Alyssa just stated it should be the May 23rd meeting. Thank you, Alyssa. Appreciate it. Great. I didn't mean to take over your update, Marcy. Anything else you wanted to talk about
You're
before we
good.
move
I'm
on?
good.
Okay. All right. The next piece is on the agenda is just moving on to old business. So our first piece of old business is the approval of the meeting minutes for March 11th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Awesome. Okay, the minutes are now approved. Next on this is, I will send this to Zora. The virtual event was Sharon Amos from Early Birds. But before I do, I just want to thank Zora so much. She is the one who coordinated this event and reached out to her colleague Sharon from Early Birds. And I think it was so informative and such a wonderful, wonderful event that I just want her to be able to speak about it.
Sure. Yeah, so we hosted Sharon Amos from Early Bird Education. And I think it was a great event. We were really fortunate too, because Sharon allowed us to record it, and she also shared her slide deck with us. So Meg, thank you for posting that on our Facebook page. So anyone who was not able to make it that night, I know that school nights can be really challenging, but it's available for anyone who wants to see it. And I think she just did a great job of really just understanding those foundational underpinnings of literacy. So it's well, and that I always like to hear about literacy, but I thought she did just such a nice job of explaining it, and I think just kind of opening up all of our eyes to all those components of literacy beyond just reading the words on the page, but really what it means for a student who's learning to read and ultimately to write and to speak. So yeah, I think that's everything. But again, if you missed it, I encourage you to go to Facebook and watch it, or even just look at those slides if you want to review it at your own pace.
I was going to say, Zora, I echo the slides. I think they were so parent friendly for the understanding of foundational literacy building blocks. I just thought they were great. Yeah.
Any questions about the presentation? No.
I actually had a question for Marcy. Just so that what was really interesting is Lauren brought up, we talked about screeners and district determined measures, and how it's great that we've got our screeners in place per the law and all of that, and we've used DIBELS and MClass, and that's great for the majority of students. And Lauren had brought up a great question about the visual nature and accessibility of the Early Bird screener, because it is game-based and has some subtests and screeners that you do not need a speaking capacity for. So it's pressing a button. It's the flip opposite, right? What says, and they're clicking it. So for our non-speaking students or students utilizing a device to communicate, this seemed like an actual usable assessment tool. And I know we were gonna speak to them about how do they pilot in districts and things like that. Because right now, currently for our non-speaking population, Marcy, we probably don't have a screener in place for them. I don't. Yeah. So it was because DIBELS, can't modify it. It is what it is. And it's wonderful for so many reasons, but I was thinking we should talk more about that. So we have a large population of students that are not able to be screened, but that doesn't mean they have the skills. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I would definitely involve Pam in a conversation about that. I know there's other conversations with similar, but other organizations in terms of our screening and different things we're going to be doing in just terms of screening and assessment. And I'm sorry, I did not have an opportunity to watch it, but it's an absolutely a valid, I think we probably move right into that, as you know, like we're assessing, those students in a different way earlier on. But we're also seeing some amazing things with, our early readers that maybe we didn't expect to see, that screening would be more appropriate, particularly with the use of new curriculum.
Well, and technically the law is all students must be screened. The law does not discern the type of student, the disability category, the programming, or the placement. So in reality, I think you're right. Great thing to talk about. Maybe not tomorrow, but in the future, because we are not screening all students utilizing an approved district determined measure, because there's no way we're successfully utilizing screener for every student in our population. And I think I would be hard pressed to find a district that probably is, because again, it's like we did one layer in one step, and then you assess the tool and how many people is it reaching, and it's the bulk of the population, but it definitely is not the screener for everybody. So how do we get how do we ensure we're in compliance with the law for all students versus majority? So I think that's just something, Zora, we want to continue to go down that road with.
I think it's something I certainly didn't, it was not on the forefront of my mind. And then it got brought up and I said, oh, wow, we should talk about that. So what I think we can do is to your point, Rachel, we're obviously in the middle of a lot of stuff to finish out the end of this fiscal year. So I think we could certainly, we can send over like the slides and the presentation, just if anyone wants to take a look, or we can share them with Pam too. And then at a later date, we can, meet up and have this conversation early, next year or, in the fall when we,
And certainly it's a question that I can ask. It doesn't need to wait till the fall too. It's a good question.
all right, we can certainly share that information.
Oh, I have it. I have it. I saw it the other day too.
Oh, perfect.
Of
Okay.
the slides, yeah.
Awesome. Oh yeah, Meg, you posted it. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments about early birds? Okay. The next is the CPAC and ABECC community outreach event. Rachel, thank you so much for attending that.
It was great. What a great event. I think there was, including siblings, because it was all inclusive and family friendly, probably about 20 kids in and out at one time or another with their families, extended family caregivers. I noticed some grandparents there, parents. It was wonderful. Spencer was the musician, sensory friendly musician. I'll tell you, he was fantastic. He was absolutely fantastic. Lauren had recommended him. He's a music therapist. It was such a welcoming environment and very approachable. Several of the children that were coming in were clearly cautious to the environment when they first came in, saw the guitar, and Spencer was so welcoming, very calming, quietly strumming, and then really read the room. And as kids warmed up and settled in, you could sit wherever you were comfortable. And he played for about an hour. And the kids were all engaged, and you were free to come and go over to the children's room, come back in, judgment-free zone. It was fantastic. It was a really lovely event with a really nice turnout. CPAC, I had a table there. Lots of people took our flyers. I introduced myself to everybody. Stickers and buttons abound. Spencer's got them all over his guitar now. So it was really, really a nice event.
Awesome. Thank you so much for going, and thanks, Lauren, she's not here, right, for planning it. Meg.
If we have any pictures of that and anybody wants to send me them, I'd love to.
The only reason I didn't is because it has people in it.
Oh yeah, maybe just have spent next time.
And the library does have a sign that says you are in a public location, and therefore, because of that, you can be videoed and photographed. But again, sensory friendly. I was, I didn't want to make anybody feel uncomfortable. I have a lovely picture of our table, our seat.
That would be
Yeah, maybe if there's one where like there are some kids, but it's mostly Spencer, we can blur that,
Okay.
around
Yep,
it.
we can blur.
Oh, good point. We can blur.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can blur.
Totally.
Yeah, because I did them from behind, so I was getting Spencer for exactly that. Right. So let me comb through what I have.
Perfect.
Yeah, and also, I mean to say that the new librarian, Megan, is that her name? One of the two new librarians, was lovely, absolutely lovely. Helped me set up the table, talk to families. She seemed more than happy to help out in any way, and I had actually met her a few nights prior to that at the kindergarten orientation night. And she had the table next to me and very nice and happy to help out in any future events that we want.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
ABECC kindergarten info night.
That leads right into that. Perfect. I forgot how packed kindergarten orientation night is. It was great. I set up right at the end of the table. So it was like PTO, library, tiptoe into kindergarten, us. So, so many families that just took our flyer. I gave a brief overview of who we are, that we're here to help, buttons, stickers, and definitely a few families stuck around, had questions, wanted to talk, obviously are nervous. Some families that are new to town that are coming with IEPs or have concerns. And I was able to spend some time with them after as well, because they did have to then get into the auditorium. But what was nice is because families were just picking up paperwork for each thing. even families that maybe didn't have time to talk or didn't have questions for us right then, took our flyers, had our QR code, and they have the information now for the future, should they need it. So I think it's a really important event for us to continue to be at yearly.
Awesome. We really
Yeah, thanks.
appreciate it.
And
Thanks
Dr.
for-
Goddard was wonderfully welcoming as always.
Yeah, thanks for doing that, Rachel. And I also just want to put in a quick plug for the Essex County Sheriff's Department's pre-release facility, who did all the photocopies for us in beautiful color for free. So that was really nice.
I'll tell you, and the color looked so good.
Yeah,
I
it's
know
beautiful.
it doesn't seem like much, but like when you're picking up all these forms and flyers, it really popped. It really stuck out. And then I was hawking our stickers and buttons again to really stand out and be noticeable. And it worked. It really did. It was eye-catching.
Awesome. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the 19th Annual Autism Advocacy Day at the State House. But Lauren is not here, so I'm going to put a plug in that, and we are going to, I'm sorry, the train's passing. We are going to wait, and we will post something on our Facebook group with more information or a recap. I just don't have that information. Our next monthly parent support group is May 15th. So it's Wednesday at the Kyoko Center in North Andover. And then that will conclude our group for like on behalf of SEPAC for the school year. And then we'll start again in the fall. And then I believe in its stead, like during that time, I believe Lauren and she'll have to verify this. I believe she's also been asked to facilitate a group for parents of profoundly disabled children at the Kyoko Center as well in North Andover. I will double check that, but I will. We can post that on our Facebook as well, and all of that information just to confirm.
And Sasha, I think there's been a real nice response to Lauren's group. I've spoken to a few families that have attended. They've communicated that they feel safe and welcome and not judged. And Lauren knew there was a need and she's established it, and parents seem to really like it. So if anybody's on the fence, I've heard nothing but positive things about it.
And to be very clear, everything is confidential. So what is spoken about at group never leaves group. And if you're found to be in breach of that trust, then you are not invited to attend anymore. So Lauren's very serious about that, and she holds that trust piece very dear. So just to be clear, if you were considering attending, it is May 15th. It is on Wednesday evening. Please attend if you've been thinking about it. We can now move on to new business. We are going to have a treasurer's update, but I think we're going to pause that and we're going to provide a more thorough update. We can, present that as needed at our future meetings. And if anyone has any specific questions, we can certainly make sure to send you an email response with any detail if you're curious. We just are still gathering a bit more information. School liaison updates. Does anyone have any updates that they'd like to share for any of our school liaisons? All right. Hearing none, we'll keep going. 2024 parent survey update. Rachel, did you want to speak about that?
I sure can. Yeah. So I'm happy to, if you're comfortable, just screen share, if you're all right with that. Just a brief, hold on. My brain has so many tabs open, it mirrors my computer. So this is definitely not all the results. I have not aggregated the data in the appropriate way yet, but clear trends emerging. The survey that we put out was very directly related to us seeking the rights law training, parent training, because that is a larger budget item. And we spoke to Marcy. Obviously, we want to make sure that one, the need is there before we pursue it. And then that we would have the support, resources, and ensure we're providing accessibility to all families. So after our last meeting, with input from Marcy, we created the survey and sent it out. We have 31 responses right now. We're going to boost that engagement in the coming weeks. And hopefully it will go until I tentatively put the last day of school. Again, Sasha, I just had that on there in my mind, is to aggregate the data by then.
Sure.
A few items that I just wanted to highlight that seem pretty conclusive and overwhelming. Whereas as parents and guardians, do you feel you need support and could benefit from direct training on navigating the special education process? 71% identified yes. And then another 9.7% identified I'm not sure. So overwhelming margin would like direct training. An interesting one that, you know, one of the guiding questions for when we're thinking about a rights law training, when you read your child's school-based evaluations and testing data, do you feel comfortable interpreting the data? Overwhelming margin is somewhat or no there. And again, that's to be expected, right? If you are not educators, it is incredibly difficult to read, interpret, understand, all while thinking about your child and the emotional impact while you're sitting in a team meeting. And then another one that was very clearly guided towards exactly the format of what rights law provides. Would you like more information and or training on how to better understand special education acronyms, the law regarding your rights as a special education parent and guardian, and how to assess your child's progress towards their goals? 96% for yes. 57% identified that if it was full day, they would attend. And the most common open comment response to that was they'd prefer it broken into 2 days for several hours each. So, you know, hoping to get more responses, obviously, than just 31 at this time, but that's definitely something that as we reach out to Peter Wright and his team for the next steps, we would ask them if they do that and what formats they provide. And then, oops, sorry. The preferable next response was 2 days, and childcare was the only consistent requested accommodation. We are asking about translation, obviously. We're asking about childcare. We asked about transportation. And again, those responses are still coming in, but childcare is really the overwhelming one. So I think that is linked to childcare for those whose students are not school age just yet, obviously, a second or third child or whatnot, or the responses for people that were considering a weekend option, but then would require childcare. So there are several sub questions to the scheduling questions, Zora, right? That then offshoot
Yeah, exactly.
further clarification.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, clearly, I think the exact content of rights law training, it seems like the responses coming in are exactly what parents have let us know they need and would want.
I think, you know, if there's anything that we can do, and Marcy, you know, we would love any help or ideas that you might have in this area. But anything we can do to get more family feedback would be really wonderful. I think we've got a good start. But I don't know if there's something that might go out directly to families.
Well,
I mean, I know that they get like weekly things, but
And I'm gonna do an end of the year wrap up letter. I can put in the nightly news. We can do those pieces. I mean, the principals. Yeah, but we can talk. I'll blast it in the manners that we usually send those pieces out.
that's great. Thank you, Marcy. We
What
really
do you
appreciate
think
it.
about entering names into a raffle? So we'll give them a $25 gift card to Amazon if they win the raffle, and we will, you know, anyone who has
The only catch is that it's
participated-
anonymous.
So we can disaggregate the answers from the names, right? So you don't have.
We're not collecting names.
Is
That is
there
shut
a
off.
way? I'm going to say it differently. Like, is there a way to have those two things be separate?
No.
No, it's you either click it on or you click it off.
Couldn't we have a link to a Google form and you just add your name? or some mechanism. We don't have to answer it now, but I'm
Yeah.
sure there's something we
Okay.
can do. I don't know the answer.
I see what you're saying. They fill out the
Yeah.
survey. That's completely anonymous. Hey, if you've done it, send us an email just with your first name.
Sure.
And we'll be entered into a raffle to be pulled on the last day of school.
I'm just, you know, what I'm wondering is, like, I think it has been sent out a bunch. But I will just speak as a parent, just, you know, getting emails. I know sometimes like I'm rushing to get through to look to see what I need. And I'm wondering that if, because it's been a part of all these things, it might be one of those things where it's like, oh, I'll get to it later. And then you forget like which newsletter it's buried in. I know that I have that trouble when I'm going through my stuff and I'm trying to find things again later. So I don't know if it's possible maybe even just to send it out like separate by
Separately.
itself. So I don't know. I think it's, you know,
I
all
agree.
really
Yeah, I think it's
Sasha.
at the end of the year madness. I think things get buried.
Yeah.
And you think this looks long. It's not, it's just a few
Yeah.
questions, but it looks long and it's like, oh, I'll come back to it, like you said,
Mhm.
but I think things get buried.
Yeah.
Well, we can certainly think about that in ways to try to increase engagement, or maybe make some like bold headline. You know, we have not posted it. Have we posted it in different Facebook groups? We have, when it first came out, didn't we? We can do that
Yeah,
again.
that being said, we could do another push though. I mean, it's been a few weeks, so yes, we should probably blast it right back out again.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a really good idea, Sasha.
And I think maybe we do an image advertisement with then the link instead of, right, or bold and all that good stuff. Okay. So we'll blast that all out again. The next thing on the agenda was the rights law presentation. So because that's been on our agenda historically. So I just wanted it fits into kind of what Rachel was talking about, but I do just want to acknowledge publicly that obviously CPAC is well aware of our district's current funding challenges and are working closely and in communication with Marcy. We understand that we as a CPAC, perhaps things have changed a bit from our original presentation and some of the things we've been talking about. And so, you know, we don't operate in a bubble. We are team players, and, you know, we aren't sure exactly what that looks like, but we'll continue to have conversations with Marcy going forward and be collaborative partners, and obviously do as much on our end as we can to fundraise for these types of presentations and events as well. So I think that's important to put out there and let everyone know that while we still are advocating for this and doing all the research for these things and think it's really important for our parents, we continue to work with the school committee and with the administration to try to achieve that and the district's larger goals. Okay. The next item is fundraising efforts and planning. So one of our biggest challenges as a CPAC is really that we do not have a tax ID currently. And so we have communicated with Marcy as well. When Marcy and I just were chatting last week, that's something, you know, we need to look more into and work with the district to get some guidance on establishing that so that we can use that in our fundraising efforts and be more streamlined in that. So we are working towards that and hope to make that a priority this summer so that we can hit the ground running from a fundraising perspective in the fall. So we'll continue to work on that.
Sasha, I just meant to ask you, I'm sure you did, so forgive me, like asking, did you ask Leslie about it?
Yes, a long time ago. And I don't remember the answer, but I remember it not leading me to a solution. So
Okay.
I will look in my emails and I will forward it to you.
Yeah, or even and I'm happy to, like, someone else, if she has any suggestions of other people to reach out to, if she doesn't have an answer, you know what I mean? But yeah, if I was going to reach out to her post our conversation, but I wanted to check with you first.
Yeah, and I can circle back with you on
Okay.
that. I think I have an email somewhere and
Okay.
and can forward it. It was we've been at this, so I remember. I just don't remember the response. So we'll work on that. The last thing in new business, really, although it's kind of old business, was the AAC posters at all playgrounds. I know that Lauren had been working on that, and the last update I got was they're still figuring out kind of some communication or things that she was working on, I think in communication with you, Marcy.
Yep. So, I mean, obviously I met at the, I don't even know how long ago at this point, probably sometime in April at a principals meeting about it. I think you guys know Franklin already has one. I think we exchanged some pictures. Our custodial staff created like a nice plexiglass enclosed, option for it. So, and again, that has also stood the test of time. So the principals were also in favor of using part of their building-based budgets to fund those, which was going to be super helpful. We have not gotten back to that conversation, but it will be something that happens at some point.
Okay. So we understand. We'll keep that on like old business, and we'll just get updates and we'll keep moving forward. Great. Next item on the agenda, unless there's anything else for new business that I missed before I move on.
So, what I was thinking is, as we think about meetings for next year, I'm wondering about maybe just having a monthly standing meeting each month, just so we could maybe put out our calendar early. I just think, like, I know for me that I think it would probably be helpful.
So we had moved towards our quarterly, like all member meetings with the hope that in between we would have our events. And then potentially, if we needed executive committee meetings on the other month. So it'd be like one commitment per month. So I think we can certainly try to establish our schedule this summer for the year, knowing that it may change, which I think we tried to do and hit way too many speed bumps. So we can definitely work on that and try to put the full calendar together in advance
Okay.
so that we can have that scheduled.
Okay, that sounds great.
Thank you for that suggestion. It is very helpful.
Sorry, I'm looking at the notes that I'm taking. Treasurer's report.
We already went through that.
Okay, just
Yeah.
making sure. I thought so. I'm looking at my notes. They're brief.
I have to get some updates with a couple of things, Rachel.
That's what I thought.
So
That's
I'll
why I
get
think
some-
I've
yeah,
done.
thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
So the next item is the president's report. We again already kind of spoke about that regarding Urban Collaborative's presentation and the formation of an advisory committee for the school committee. So I will continue to move on from that. And there's not much for the president's report other than please feel free to reach out to us either via private message or hello@northandoversepac.com or any of us individually. Our email addresses are just our first initial last name at northandoversepac.com. We would love to hear from you. So it can be a suggestion on what you'd love to see for programming. It can be a question. It can be, how do I get more involved? It can be, whatever, but everything that is communicated, if asked, is in confidence. And we certainly would love to hear from you so that we can better program for next year. Our goal is to make this kind of a resource for you. So whatever we can do, please reach out. We'd really love to hear from you. And that's all I have. So it's now 7:04. We're ahead of schedule, which is always a positive thing. Do I have any public comment before I move to the adjournment?
Yes. So we're rightly here.
Hi everyone. So I just wanted to let you know, I can help out for the Special Olympics. I have a field trip with my son that day, so I can help like clean up after 1:30 or whatever is needed.
Thank you, Megan. So the best route would be to email Lauren. So she's coordinating the volunteers. I think the event might end at noon. So I don't know if cleanup will be done by 1:30, but please email her, and she'd be like, we immensely appreciate the offer to volunteer. And then you can certainly just reach out directly to Lauren, and she'll be able to tell you what times and if that works for your schedule and coordinate.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Sasha, also, I have somebody who's listening. She's a parent in the district. She's also the deputy chief for nonprofit organizations and public charities division at the Attorney General's office. And she said she can absolutely help us if we need to with the tax ID number and setting that all up. She says she's more than happy to speak to you, Marcy, Zora, the board, whatever, and talk about there's a postcard application that's a lot easier to fill out and expedite the process. So she said she's happy to speak to you.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, we'd really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
All right, I'll connect her.
Great. Right. Before we conclude, any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Have a great night.